Why do they doubt the kid? I'm about to prove them all wrong again. I got a low tolerance, cause they don't even know what the problem is.
Is there more soldiers on the other side of that EMA? Did they go pick up new soldiers? Because, you know, now that it's weak, kind of give y'all a little background, right? I love trading. I've done trading for a long period of time, and oh, come on, 4:30. Come on. Let's go. All right, good morning, my neighbors. Welcome to another episode of that After the Trades, where we're going to be breaking down some alerts. This is going to be today's. I apologize, I didn't send the ones for this morning, but there was a little bit of a complication that kind of arose. It is what it is. So let's go ahead and start to knock this bad boy out. So the first thing I want to kind of break down is the fact that Costco went ahead and did something very interesting. Let me put this to the side here. I already got into this, so we're going to see if this thing holds its level, because in like 17 minutes it's about to trigger a 2-hour sweep, which is going to make things very interesting, because then that 2-hour is trying to run away from that gap, and it's just going to go ahead and continue to the downside. Could it be a pullback until they get to their dividends? Maybe, very possible. But if we actually break under here, this is remaining of a gap that's here that they could be looking for. And I think that's what they're banking on, and we could see if they'll fill that. If they do, we probably could fill down to 840, 825, but then that's all if and speculation, and all we are speculators. So this came out of Ticker Command right over here. Let's go ahead and run down to a couple of others. Uber. This one I was going to set up to actually take a trade on this one, but I kind of got distracted with NQ as they are trying to break through on certain levels. Actually, this could be a nice little close here, but that fair value gap fill could be that sweep that they're looking for. Let's see the 2-hour. It looks like a bear flag. I'm not gonna lie to you, it really does. Let's go over to the daily. So yeah, I would say for Uber, I would say a nice little entry under this 85, and then you could play it down to 82, 83. Newmont did not pan out too well. This thing was popping to the upside, but it was a gap up. It broke this level, and then it just never looked back. And I think that's because gold is starting to pull back as well. This one is relatively weighted on that, so that's probably why that's happening. And then Apple is flirting with breaking its rules as it's under my stop loss at this level. This was going to be a nice little bounce, and we was up here. I kind of questioned it because everything was looking a little crazy when we got under here. But again, you know, this is one of those things when you look at your setup, if it's not following through with the setup, then you might want to consider chalking the deuces, especially when we did this. We was in that upper register, and there was nothing here that really stood out that said, hey, I can't wait to get up here. So just keep that in mind. UNH, that thing kind of did something a little funky. This was a little toughy for the most part. The reason why I say this was a toughie was because on the 30-minute, when the Nemesis came into play for the trade setup, it was basically a short, and what ended up happening inside of that short, we got that level, very little follow through. Let me go ahead and mark this off for you so you can see what I'm talking about. And it went straight to TP1, and that was all they had, and it was like relatively quick. So here's your candle close below if you like to follow through, and then this was going to be your candle all the way down. That would have been about $1 move, and then you would have took your profits and then chalked the deuces. Look at that gap up. I think I already went over the Google and everything else, so we're going to leave those alone. Let's go over to the swing trades. Let's see what we got over there. Inside the swing trades, let me take a monitor on something else. Okay. On the swing trades, we got ourselves Lululemon. If you don't have the alerts on these, and again, I know I'm working on making this a little bit more streamlined for y'all, but if we look at this Lululemon, this thing is something epic. Let me go ahead and get rid of these yarns right here. Nice little move over here. Let me go ahead and fix that. I got them, and we're gonna go ahead and put our levels. This was a green light all the way back from here on the 2 hour, and you can kind of see they kind of ran away, came back over here, continued from that upside. So this was a very strong move. It just finally signaled saying that the trade is over, and that's only because when we got the TP1 over here, it was supposed to wrap up and be done when it was all said and done. And that was December 4th at 11:30. Nice gap up. You should have been out of there. If you left an alert here, you would have been in somewhere around here, and then that would have been over because we finally taken enough targets out of this one. All right, what else we got in here? We got VST. VST is a ticker mostly for stocks. The options are not the greatest, but when this thing kind of pans out, it pans out well. We could go ahead and get ourselves a nice little short over here. You can see it touched the TP1, and then it just flat out reverses, and that's what we want to see. We'll see if this thing can go ahead and continue. And I already gave y'all Intuit and Alcoa and all of this already, so that's what was there. Let's go over SPX. SPX, we had a call, and then they kind of liquidated them. Let's go look at SPX, so that way I can put this into perspective for you. And you'll see that on the 15-minute on SPX, this move was supposed to be a strong call to the upside. And like I said, the TPs matter, folks. All right, the TPs matter. Right there, TP1. If you were still in it, congratulations. You just gave the money right back and then some. And then we got ourselves SPY, same thing. This one was a little tricky, trying to hold on to that position for you to go ahead and get into that upside. That is not SPY. This is SPY. And you'll see that we had a nice close. This is another one right there. And there's your TP1 again. You would have to get in on that close of this candle here and be patient and take that trade. What else I have for y'all? Let's just run down to futures real quick. Let's see. We had NQ at 11:45, which I'm a little upset because I was like, this thing's breaking my entry. This might continue. But you'll see on NQ 45-minute, broke above that, broke below the entry, swept some liquidity, took this thing down. I know my chart is a little chaotic. Let me go ahead and tone this down a little bit for y'all. Let me get rid of fair value gaps. Let me get rid of psychological levels. And here's my orb. So this is what I kind of was looking at for the most part, was that we had a nice little trend. We had some pivots here, and we broke the pivots, and they're looking for lower prices, getting real close to my TP1. Which again, at TP1, I'm probably going to go ahead and take a bounce to the upside as this thing is failing to hold that 250 or 200 level. Could this take us all the way back up to the top? I think there is a gap up here that they might be sweeping, or could this be the gap that people are finally taking profits and this thing never comes back? Who knows? But again, this is why we play the trades that we play, because they give us the opportunities and we take them for what they are. All right, so I kind of ran through the gambit. That's everything. I will be back on at 1:15-ish, before 1:30, and give you the afternoon results. Have a great day. Bye-bye.